President Trump has nominated a new Attorney General and UN Ambassador. Two prominent Democrats see their chances of winning 2020 slowly fade away. The White House invites Holocaust survivors to celebrate Hanukkah. Lastly, Kevin Hart will no longer be hosting the Oscars. This is A Better World, and I'm your host, Luis Acevedo. Starting off today, we'll talk about who President Trump nominated to become his Attorney General. That would be William Barr. He served under George H.W. Bush as the Attorney General from 1991 to 93. He also worked for Ronald Reagan on his domestic policy team, and from 73 to 77, he was a CIA analyst. So he is very, very experienced when it comes to legal matters and working in the government. He is a very good pick for President Trump. All the Republicans seem to think that way as well. Senator Lindsey Graham is one of his verbal supporters. The beautiful thing about this, he doesn't need any Democrat votes to become confirmed. All he needs is Republican votes. The Republicans have 53 people in the Senate. They picked up 2 seats during the midterm. So this is an awesome thing. He will face no opposition. This is good. And he's an establishment Republican, which will be even easier for the public will be more palatable for the public, and the media won't have too much to dog him on, other than the fact that he is against Roe v. Wade. He believes the states should exclusively hold the rights to whether or not they allow abortion. And Senator Joe Biden actually stated he should be complimented for having such a candid answer on that topic. This was before this current nomination. This was while he was going through the Senate confirmation under George H.W. Bush to become his Attorney General then. I believe there are 2 reasons why President Trump has picked him to fulfill this position. First, in 2017, he had an interview with the Washington Post in where he stated that the Mueller investigation is unbalanced due to it having so many Democrat supporters and donors on the investigation team, which is a rightful concern, in my opinion, especially with the political climate that we live in today. And I have to add that not too many people know this. William Barr was Robert Mueller's boss under the Bush administration as well. So maybe President Trump is trying to troll Mueller, being that Robert Mueller is going to have to report to William Barr if the investigation doesn't wrap up by then, although it looks like the investigation is coming to an end slowly but surely. We'll be seeing a final report hopefully soon. And I guess I'm going to digress a little bit here. President Trump has started tweeting out that they are going to have a counter report for Robert Mueller's report, which is a little preemptive. However, I will acknowledge that the president could have information that I don't have or you don't have, the public doesn't have at all, because he's the president of the United States. So I would assume he would get the scoop on a lot of things before anybody else would. So maybe he sees something in the investigation that's unjust, that's false, that has been fabricated. I don't know. But that's obviously going on an assumption, not fact. From what I know, I don't think President Trump should actually be tweeting out anything. He should just wait and see what the report holds, and then, if need be, make something to counter it. Until then, you are coming off as if you're guilty and trying to defend yourself too quickly. That's my opinion, and that's how I feel that he will be perceived by the public by making that move. Now I'll return back to William Barr. William Barr obviously is going to be a strong supporter of President Trump and make sure that President Trump will do the right things as far as the legal side of things go and as the Robert Mueller investigation unfolds. Another reason I think that President Trump picked him is because of his stance on the firing of James Comey. William Barr has stated that James Comey usurped the Department of Justice by coming out and declaring Hillary Clinton's innocence when it should have been the Attorney General to do so. These 2 reasons are the most simple reasons why I think President Trump nominated him to fill that position. Obviously, there's the fact that he's an establishment Republican. He will support President Trump. He will easily get confirmed. Most importantly, he's on President Trump's team when it comes to being against the Robert Mueller investigation and in support of James Comey's firing especially since James Comey has to testify today in front of the Senate, or the House, I'm sorry. There may be an investigation that happens under William Barr's watch as well into some of the Democrat players. We'll see how that unfolds. The other person President Trump has nominated today is a person to fulfill the position of UN ambassador, being that Nikki Haley has resigned and will be leaving at the end of this year. That person who's going to fill that spot is Heather Nauert. She is currently the spokesperson for the State Department, although if you just watch the headlines in the mainstream news, you're going to see that she was a Fox News contributor for some time. And the mainstream media is taking this and running with it, making it seem as if President Trump is nominating people based on their political preferences and where they stand with Fox News, being that that's the only thing President Trump watches for the most part. We all know that. Obviously, he's picking people because of their political preferences as well. You can't have somebody on your team who doesn't believe the same things you believe, then it wouldn't work out that great. Although it does happen, there are people who are of different political persuasions in the government. You're supposed to just work under the president. Although I think it's important for President Trump to have people within his party who are in support of him, especially since he's under a spotlight 24/7 and they're just looking for anything to destroy his presidency. So Heather Nauert is being criticized for being a Fox News contributor and fulfilling the UN ambassadorship. They seem to forget that Barack Obama had 26 reporters in his administration. He also nominated journalists, fiction writers to fill UN ambassadorships as well. We just forget about that. We forget about Barack Obama doing anything remotely close to what Trump is doing because we can't say Barack Obama did anything bad. God forbid the mainstream media criticize Barack Obama. It'll be the end of the world. It's insane. And not even saying Barack Obama was the only person to do this. Other presidents have done this as well. It's just hilarious that the mainstream media is taking this, running with it, and making it seem as this is brand new to politics. This is not brand new to politics whatsoever. This has been going on for years. May I add that the UN ambassadorship is nothing but a messenger position and a mouthpiece for the nation. Heather Nauert has been a messenger for most of her career. She's doing a fabulous job being a spokesperson for the State Department. I'm sure she'll do a great job filling Nikki Haley's position as the UN ambassador. I have to add that she has worked in the government as well before becoming a journalist. She worked in government affairs for Social Security, health insurance, taxes. She also worked on a nonprofit organization in New York City predicated on foreign policy. So she has some knowledge when it comes to foreign policy and how to handle government workings, especially now since she's been the spokesperson since 2017. Most importantly, though, is that she knows how to handle tough situations, speaking with world leaders and other countries as well, being that she was a journalist going over speaking with local officials, government officials of all varieties. Very experienced. She's won an Emmy Award during her time at ABC News. She's more than qualified for the position, especially since it's just a mouthpiece and the messenger for the United States of America. That's all it is, the ambassadorship. The media's outrage is totally unwarranted. Now, in other news, Senator Kamala Harris is one of those Democrats who may see her chances of winning the 2020 election kind of fade away. We all know her for being fierce against Brett Kavanaugh and coming out very aggressively during the confirmation hearings, saying she stands with Christina Ford and believes her. Believe all women. She believes in the Me Too movement. She's a big proponent of it. But one of her senior aides had a $400,000 sexual assault settlement that was filed back in 2016. He just resigned very recently. This happened while she was the Attorney General in California, and he was her Director of Law Execution or Executive, something like that. California went with her to the senatorship, to become as she won the senator in the state of California. She claims to know nothing about this instance whatsoever. And another thing that I have to add, she proposed a bill to end non-disclosures for sexual harassment victims or sexual assault victims. That way, they can speak out against what has happened to them. Her senior aide had this woman who he allegedly sexually harassed file a non-disclosure. She claims to know nothing about it. This isn't that great of news for Senator Kamala Harris. The only reason it's not good news is because of how verbally and how strongly she was in confirming her belief in all women when it comes to being a sexual assault victim. Let me remind you that she's also under investigation for violating ethic codes for raising money under Brett Kavanaugh's name during the confirmation process, which is against ethical code. Senator Elizabeth Warren is also facing that same investigation. As for Senator Elizabeth Warren, she's the other Democrat whose chances have pretty much completely diminished after her DNA test revealed that she is one of the most whitest people in America. What is it? 1,024th Native American? 1,024th Native American? The average American, if I'm not mistaken, is like 164th Native American. So yeah, she's white as hell. That's all that proved. And she did it because President Trump drives his opponents to insanity. She said, "You keep calling me Pocahontas, I'm going to prove you wrong." Took a DNA test, Donald Trump was proven right. That's what happened. Now she's coming out and apparently going to apologize. That's what her advisors are telling her to do, is to apologize for releasing the DNA. Apologizing because she offended Native tribes. This is what's going on over at the Democratic Party right now. I don't think Senator Kamala Harris is going to be she won't be affected too negatively as far as the sexual harassment case goes. We don't really know exactly what happened other than the woman's story, which is he placed a printer under his desk and had her replace the ink cartridges and paper on a daily basis. She would have to get down on her hands and knees to do it and get underneath him to do it. So if that is the case, that is really demeaning. That does seem like it would be sexual harassment. Why else would you do that? She even apparently asked to have it moved. He refused. I find it hard to believe that Senator Kamala Harris knew nothing about this, especially since allegedly when the victim of the sexual harassment tried to tell other senior members of the team about what was going on, they apparently brushed it off and kind of forced her to keep her mouth shut over this. I find it very hard to believe that she knew nothing about it, and I find it hard to believe that she's not calling for him to go to prison or jail or face more punishment because, believe all women, right? Believe all women. Don't even look for evidence. Believe all women. This is going to hurt Senator Kamala Harris a little bit. We'll see how this plays out in 2020 when she starts running and what her fellow Democrats are going to use against her as far as this goes. Senator Elizabeth Warren is going to be completely demolished by Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker, probably Joe Biden if he runs. Senator Elizabeth Warren will never become the President of the United States. Her chances are completely gone. In other news, the White House has hosted Holocaust survivors in celebration of Hanukkah. Yesterday, President Trump had Holocaust survivors come to the White House to celebrate Hanukkah. During his speech that he was given, he actually invited up the Holocaust survivors and recognized them individually, calling out their names and just acknowledging them, which was a truly awesome moment. There's a video on Twitter, and You can go and watch it. I actually retweeted it. It's an awesome video, very heartfelt. It is insane that the mainstream media, that the leftists are still claiming that President Trump is a Nazi. He's anti-Semitic. He is a racist. He's a bigot, especially when he does stuff like this. He invited Holocaust survivors. Did Obama invite Holocaust survivors? I don't think so. Last time I checked, he didn't. President Trump did. He acknowledged them, celebrated Hanukkah with them. This is just inaccurate reporting on the media's behalf, claiming that he's a Nazi and comparing him to Hitler, comparing him to being an anti-Semitic. This is just insane. But obviously this is going to happen. This is what the mainstream media does to most Republicans. And it's sad. It's sad. This won't get any attention. If this was Barack Obama, if this was a Democratic president, I guarantee you that'd be all over the news right now. That'd be the only thing we were talking about today. The only thing. But it isn't. In other news, the last thing for the day, the most controversial topic of the day, the most disgusting topic of the day, and something we should all be worried about, is that Kevin Hart will no longer be hosting the Oscars due to mob rule. Apparently, back in 2011, 2010, 2009, he made some supposed homophobic tweets where they did seem a little insensitive. However, back in that time, 2011 to 2009, people were saying gay very freely and openly, calling everything gay under the sun, because you don't have to be gay to say gay, and it doesn't have to actually have sexual orientation to be gay. That's just a slang term that is used to refer to things that can be stupid or, I don't need to explain that to you. Well, he is no longer serving or hosting the Oscars because of some tweets he sent out years ago. People are demanding him to no longer host the Oscars because of it, even though he apologized. This is insane. Joy Reid, do we remember her? She had homophobic blog posts actually dedicated to some homophobic language. She still has her job. She apologized. When it comes to mainstream leftists, they can get away with whatever they want as long as they deny it or just apologize. Anybody else who apologizes and say, hey, I'm sorry for what I did. This was inappropriate behavior. You're absolutely right. Let's move on. No, they're not allowing that to happen. An apology is not good enough, which is scary. It's scary that things 10 years ago will completely end your career. Even if you apologize, and even if you were a completely different person than you were before, you could have a complete change of heart. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is something that we have to be very mindful for as well. This could precipitate into the public in a very negative way. It already has, but I mean the general public, as far as you and I losing our jobs because people don't like us and people being usurped due to popularity. This is insane and egregious. We should be above this. We have free speech in America. You cannot be punished for saying things. That is, unless obviously you're inciting violence, then you should not be punished for saying what's on your mind or how you feel or your opinions on topics. That's the beauty of living in America. They're trying to censor people actively. People who aren't in any power of position are trying to do that, or aren't any powerful positions are trying to do that. This is insane. So, unfortunately, Kevin Hart will no longer be hosting the Oscars. Doesn't really matter. Their ratings are going to be crap anyway. They have been crap. Isn't it funny, too, that they said Oscars so white and they were about to have a black host, and now they got rid of the black host by a white guy tweeting it out and finding these homophobic tweets? If that was a Republican finding out something about Kevin Hart, they would quickly blame it on the Republican being racist. But since the person writes for The Guardian, or wrote the article for The Guardian, he is okay to go. And since, Kevin Hart wrote out things in which he called people gay and used the word fag, he no longer can host the Oscars. This is insane. We can't keep this up. So that's the news for today. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday. Peace.